Welcome to another edition of MeetingRequest, the business podcast series of Deloitte Hungary. I am Csanád Bánhegyi, Head of Marketing at Deloitte Hungary, and your host for this episode. In the studio I am joined by Randy Wilson, partner of Deloitte UK, based in London, and Csaba Mező, partner of Deloitte Hungary, based in our Budapest office. Randy has over 25 years of experience in helping energy and commodity trading companies improve processes and enhance systems. His experience includes commodity trading strategy, risk management, system implementation, credit, valuation, and financial reporting. Randy has worked with many energy companies and traders to enhance operational performance through the integration of new technologies. Randy also leads Deloitte's operations with VOCT, the blockchain consortium formed by 9 global energy companies and banks providing strategy and integration support. He heads Deloitte's commodity trading practice in the UK and is a global leader in the energy and resources blockchain team. Csaba is a partner at Deloitte Hungary's advisory function. He leads the energy and resources practice as a technical director at various service companies. During his work, he has coordinated several strategy and organizational development projects whose goals included cost reduction, service quality improvement, process improvement, and IT system development in Hungary. Randy, Csaba, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thank you.
So in the recent years, one can read more and more about the disruptive approach of energy, but what does it really mean for the energy industry? So what disruptive trends do you see?
Okay, so it's this energy industry. It's obviously quite a long-term industry. So if we invest usually it's a 40 years or 60 or even more, and so this because of this, then we are quite a trend observer. So this is a usual approach of the energy business. So we have several trends, load forecast, in the regulation trends, financial trends, and recently there's a new trends appeared which really turn upside down this whole industry structure. These are what we call as disruptive trends. We identify 3 major trends, which really among the small one. So I mean the first one is this reduction of the solar panel price, and we expect that it's further decreasing. And due to the fact that it means that the PV is more and more profitable, so even in Hungary the household size PVs has a reasonable return according to our calculation, and it's accelerate the distributed generation. And more clients became not only a customer but also a generator, so not only consumer but also a producer. And this is one of the major trends. And these lead to we call them a prosumer.
A prosumer.
Yeah,
right.
And the second trend is this industry convergence. A couple of years ago, I worked in the industry, and a couple of years ago, we thought that the energy-related activities beyond the meter, it's some kind of privilege of the utility companies, because we are familiar with it, so we understand it and we know what is behind all this. Recently, some new companies appeared on this field, and it's a completely different industry. What we expected, what we haven't seen before. So, like a Google or Apple appear on this industry, and they offer new products, new services to the clients. And the other competitors, the huge competitors, the car factories. So a couple of years ago, we thought that the utilities' major competitor is the telecom companies, but recently we can say that it's a new car factories are the new competitors. And the third trend, which is also interesting, is the digitalization. Maybe Randy can talk a bit more about how the digitalization looks like.
I think most of our large energy clients have some form of digital transformation project that they're undertaking. And when they look at digital, they look at it from a couple of different aspects. Digital transformation generally applies to internally using new emerging technologies to restructure the systems that drive the primary business. So what they're really going after is cost takeout through the introduction of some of the emerging technologies. And the digital technologies I'm talking about are robotic process automation, it's cognitive and AI, it's the Internet of Things, sensors, it's predictive or advanced analytics, and blockchain. So those are kind of the categories of technology. How these are being applied, it varies across the industry. I'm more on the oil and gas side, so I can speak to that a little bit more. But as I mentioned, the first objective, I think, for most of them was what they call breaking the cost stack within the organization. These huge systems being a little bit more nimbler, a lot faster in terms of implementation. And it's also looking at, instead of the process automation per se, it's how do we extract value from the data we have within the organization. So a lot of it's about identifying where we have different sources of data and how do we construct models around it to create more value.
Yeah, I also would like to join to what Randy has already told, because this industry again, it was digitalized for a long time. So we were the first, I guess, we used really a SCADA system, which means that we collected information about the assets,
right.
And we could intervene into assets or control them. What different, as Randy told, what's different, this digitalization is completely different, because we are collecting information about the clients and around the environment and from different sources, restructuring, and we use it for a completely different way.
And what do you see? Is digitalization equally distributed in the different phases of the value chain, meaning upstream, midstream, trade? So equally digitalized are these phases of the value chain or not?
I don't think so. I think they're all on, their own journey, let's say, when it comes to digital. And it's not so much that part of the value chain is more advanced. I think different digital technologies are more readily deployable in different parts of the value chain. For example, in upstream oil and gas, you have a lot of focus on predictive asset maintenance, because when you place assets in the North Sea, they can be there a long time. Any insight you can get into how that asset performs under different weather, temperature conditions can give you competitive advantage. It's all about time to first oil for these companies. So, the digital twin technology, this is really, really important to them. If you get more downstream, or let's say midstream within trading, marketing, it's really about the administrative cost of transacting. Margins have been compressed very severely within trading over the last 5 or 6 years. So things like blockchain are more important because they attack kind of the cost structure of the business.
So in my understanding that we can divide the digitalization in 3 parts. The first one is what we call is a core digitalization, which when we're talking about the core system of the companies, like a security system, the server operation, and really the core. The second another part is this we call it V digital. It means how we can digitalize the operation of the companies. As I mentioned to you, so in this industry, the PV really generated a radical change for the utilities. So as I mentioned, that's the investment. If we invest for 40 years. These assets, what we have right now in the utility companies, these assets was mainly built after the Second World War, and they now get close to the physical life cycle.
Right.
And the companies in front of the questions whether we should replace these assets. So shall we, considering these trends, do we invest billions of euros and dig into the earth again? How they can postpone this investment if they change the way of working? They use a lot of data about the technical conditions of the assets, the soil around the assets, and on the base they make a prediction about the failure, and this is what we call a predictive maintenance. So this is on the Be Digital. And the third part is the Go Digital, when we increase improve the client's interaction through the digitalization. And one of the trends, and it's my question to Randy, it's one of the trends is lot of buzzword around the digitalization.
Yeah.
What is used, and smart grid and smart customers and smart home and the blockchain is also, and it's very interesting because in the last time I guess there was a World Economic Summit, and in the World Economic Summit the second most used word was the blockchain after Trump. So I mean, what do you think? So I mean, this blockchain it's a new hype, or it's a new buzzword, or it really has some content behind all this? What's your opinion?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, right? And the thing I hear most from people is we hear a lot about blockchain. Everyone's talking about it, but we don't see a lot of examples of people using it in practice or any implementations that have been deployed. I think there's a really good one I'd like to talk about, very specific, that's recent. It went live last week. It's called VACT, V-A-K-T. This is a consortium of 9 global companies, 3 integrated energy companies, Shell, BP, and Equinor, 3 traders, Coke, Gunvor, Mercuria, and 3 banks, SocGen, ING, and ABN AMRO. And they got together and under a consortium model, and they've built a blockchain application that allows them to share non-critical data about a trade over the blockchain that provides greater security, efficiency, and it reduces operational risk. They've started with the North Sea market, which is called the BFOE market. This is the physical oil market that supports the ICE Brent contract, the most liquid commodities futures contract. So it's a very important market. There's a couple of things why I think this will be successful. One, it's a consortium model, and the consortium they got together has about 60 to 70% of the volume of that initial market. So there's kind of a tipping point with blockchain. If you create a consortium and you try to get people to use a technology, but only 20 or 30% of the participants use it, it's hard to get critical mass to continue. If you can get 60 to 70% of the market on your platform, the rest of the market's going to follow. They basically have to if they want to transact. And that's what's happening. So it's a very smart approach to it, I believe.
How do you organize this kind of alliances or consortium? Because I learned from you and from your presentation this morning, it was very challenging because in many areas the competitors are able to work together, like in regulation or let's say exploration. But in the trading, it's a very special. There is no win-win situation, or usually there is no win-win situation. One win, the other lose. So that's trading. How you could combine this? How you formulate these alliances between the companies?
Yeah, another great question, right? I think the answer is it's very difficult. But that's the power in the consortium. It's hard to replicate. So the companies that got together initially were very visionary because they took a big leap of faith. And they decided that there's an industry problem or problems around efficiency, around trade finance, around operational risk, just around the cost of transacting that we all face. None of us get a strategic advantage from these issues. But if we get together and try to resolve them collectively, we'll be more powerful than any one of us could do individually. And not only will we change the market from our perspective, we'll change it for everyone's perspective. It'll make the market better for everyone. People put it right. If somebody from one of them said to me, I can't remember which company, but I don't get a competitive advantage if BP or Shell make a mistake on an invoice. It just causes me a headache.
Yeah.
So if we can resolve these kind of issues by using a technology like blockchain, where we have this distributed ledger, where there is a single source of truth, where we're all looking at essentially the same data at the same time, we can eliminate a lot of the cost associated with transacting, and it benefits everybody.
Okay. And are this secure solution? Because for me, it's maybe I'm a too old guy, but I'm get used to the paper-based contract, and now it's what we are talking about it's more electronic contract.
Yeah, security is definitely an area of concern, and the blockchain in general is a secure environment, and I'm not going to go into on this call all the layers of security that's designed into blockchain. But I will say this, and this is a good example. The standard we're going from right now is most energy companies will take an invoice with bank details, scan it, attach it to an email, and send it over the internet. This is where we're moving from. I can guarantee you that the blockchain solution that we're delivering today is more secure than that.
Okay.
Besides being in a consortium, what were the other aspects of legal environment you had to consider?
Yeah, so the biggest one in a consortium from a legal perspective is antitrust. Is you have to be very careful in terms of how you structure a consortium to ensure that you're operating within the legal competitive frameworks as set up within the markets you operate, generally the US and EU in this case. That's the primary concern. After that, the markets, the good news with VACT is they started with a very standardized market where from a contractual perspective, everybody operates more or less off of the same contract. So it made it much easier to design a digital process around that, where you didn't have different versions of legal T's and C's that you had to adapt for each transaction. So I think the more standardized the market from a trading perspective, the easier it is to approach in terms of digital technologies.
And how can you trigger the participating organizations? I mean, is there a major stimulus needed there, or?
Yeah, God, these are really good questions. We're trying. So we have this one with the oil traders that's been established. The ABCDs, as they're called, which is ADM, Bunge, Cargill, and Louis Dreyfus, which are the biggest agricultural traders in the world. They've announced that they're getting together and looking at forming a blockchain. They don't even call it blockchain. I'll take that back. They're forming a consortium that will look at digital technologies to address more or less the same problems that the VAT consortium were looking at, really the efficiency of transacting. In the metals market, the same things happen. Petrochemical companies are talking about the same idea. So I think it's starting to get momentum.
And all this solution is open, so anyone can join to this alliance, or how it works? I mean.
Yeah, no, they're not. So that's, there is a first mover advantage. So if you get into a consortium in the beginning and you lay the groundwork for establishing the model in terms of how you're going to build a platform, and you invest in that, you'll own the platform. So there is a first mover advantage that once it's formed, it'll be more costly, or you might not be able to get in later on. You can still benefit by using the technology, which is the good news, but there is a first mover advantage. So if you're in an industry that's considering a blockchain consortium, in my point of view, I think the cost of joining early is fairly cheap compared to the benefits. And there's one thing that I think people mistake or overlook, and it's, if you get involved in a consortium, it's almost like you get R&D on steroids. Because not only do you benefit from your own investment, you'll have, in VAC's case, you have 9 other companies that you have access to their technology resources, their business analysts, their experience in the market. That's incredibly powerful. And it's really, you can see it at any given day in VAC. They might have had 9 companies, and VAC might be, or 9 people that invested, and VAC might be small. But the ecosystem of people were over 100, 150 people that actually contributed in terms of business and IT users. And that's very powerful.
Understanding this is a very new platform, but what are the first experiences of the participating companies? So what would they say?
Yeah, look, it is new. They've just finished testing. They went live last week. They're starting to enter their first trades into the platform. So far, I think so good. The good news is the people using the platform have been involved all along in terms of developing and testing it. So they're intimately familiar with the product that was delivered. The test will come in January when they start adding additional market participants.
Or can you imagine anything similar in the Hungarian market, or how does
Yeah, so more and more companies I deal with this blockchain technology, so they think about it. But frankly speaking, we are quite far from the productive systems. In the utility business, that we also have such a kind of pilot system, like in the Boston microgrid, where in a small scale, not as big as what Randy has already mentioned, but it's very small scale, the producer, the consumers can sell energy what they don't use to other clients, and this is based on also in a blockchain base. So I mean, it's like it's very similar, but it's a much smaller case.
So it's a pilot.
It's a pilot, and there's some others which also similar platform for the power business. To Hungary, is the first transaction was E.ON bought 1 megawatt hour from Italy to Hungary, and that was the second. But frankly speaking, the companies in Hungary right now is still just tasting the blockchain technology.
Your example is really good, but I have to say you're a couple hundred miles off. It was Brooklyn, not Boston, in terms of the microgrid.
Oh, Brooklyn. I'm sorry. Yes, it's a Brooklyn microgrid, so please. It's not a Boston, it's a Brooklyn, yeah. So I guess it's in Hungary. We are still just tasting this technology. And there are some companies who are more interesting in and they're looking for, but I'm pretty sure that sooner or later someone also create a trading platform like this. for a smaller scale, and then it's I guess it's the new entrants who are the first in the first mover advantage. They can set up a standard for the whole market, and they really change the market.
Okay, so coming from the Eon example you mentioned, does it mean that the institutional and the legal environment is ready for some?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very good question, because up to now that's the legal background for this kind of technology. Which means that we make a contract on the computer base. It's not really developed enough. So I mean, I'm pretty sure that the government has to change, the regulator has to change the regulation in a way that the companies are motivated to implement such new technologies.
What could be the motivational factors?
So the first one is environment, to change the legal environment in order to get easier to make a contract. The second one, as far as I mentioned, so for instance, the prosumers appear. Right now, the asset-based companies' revenue depends on the distributed energy, on the base of the distributed energy. Distributed energy is decreasing in the network. And it means that the company's revenue is decreasing, and they are not really motivated to support such kind of new technology change. So for instance, the tariff structure should have been changed in order to support this kind of technology change.
I assume that consumers should be more conscious about being a prosumer at the end of the day.
Exactly. That more and more clients will select this solution. It's not only because of the economical reason, partially because of economical. Second one is, of course, environmental reason. And that's why, as we learned, that the clients want to be more or became more and more individualist. And this individualism means that they want to be free from the big utilities and the big companies. And
No, I was just going to say, look, when it comes to the deployment of digital technologies, I'm a believer of starting where you can do it already within the constraints of regulatory infrastructure and legal frameworks. And I'll give you an example. I love the idea of having solar panels on the roof of my house, and if I generate excess power, I can sell it to my neighbor. That whole idea of peer-to-peer power trading sounds great. Everyone would like it. Yet really hard to do in practice with the infrastructure we have and the way the grid is set up. So that's a tough one to establish if you want to have this blockchain peer-to-peer solution. Much better would be to look at, flex within the market, whether it's on the supply or demand side, and how you may be able to capture those capabilities on the blockchain. So I'm more on the start with what's easiest from the limitations of what the regulatory framework hands you.
Besides blockchain, what are the other possible digital trends you see on the market?
I think the one that probably we haven't talked about, but most of my clients have already deployed in the largest scale would be robotic process automation, RPA. And the reason it's quite simple, it's very easy to do. So a robot is something that it's really like a macro. So if you have a process where you have somebody in your company that takes data out of one system, data out of another system, puts it together in a spreadsheet, compares the numbers, produces a report, mails it to another department, that can be eliminated very quickly with the existing RPA technologies on the market. And these things can be implemented very quickly. They're not super technical. They don't require you usually to even touch your internal systems, which is very compelling from an IT perspective. And the payback's very quick. So, they're usually within 12 months. So the arguments or the business case around RPA has been, it's been very strong.
On the other side, this RPA technology it has some certain limitation, because the robot is able to make so they need a very simple decisions and clear decisions. And now it's the next step as the cognitive technology, which is our next step of this robot, which means that the robots are able at first understand certain rules, and then on the base of the rules they can make decisions. And the next step is when they are able to learn, and then they can, on the base of experience, they can better and better decisions.
So another example that we haven't spoken much about is digital transformation in downstream oil and gas in the retail business. And that's an area that is very active. There's a lot of technology that's being applied to making a business that traditionally has come under a lot of cost pressure. Margins are very tight. further automate it from the refinery all the way to delivering fuel at the retail station. The different components are customer portals. We see advancements in customer self-service. And that's even not just on the retail side, on the B2B side, people are purchasing wholesale fuel, lubes, mines, being able to do that in advance, manage the customer interaction by themselves. So this makes it a much more attractive cost footprint for the energy company servicing them. The logistics side, the advancement in truck scheduling, optimization software, using predictive analytics, using AI has come a long way. The pricing capability, again, using the same kind of tools within a competitive retail market, much more advanced. So the basic platform you can build for retail businesses today using these technologies is very advanced. And a lot of companies are taking advantage of it.
So we'll come back to this blockchain, the VACT. What was our role at Deloitte? What was our contribution to this setup?
Yeah, no, we worked a couple of different areas with VACT. So we helped with part of the strategy development, determining which markets they'd go after, in what order, what kind of functionality could be delivered in the initial offering of their blockchain solution. Customer onboarding was a big part of it. We built the onboarding playbook. So for large organizations like an integrated oil company like a Shell or BP, to just send data to a blockchain platform, there's a lot of considerations that they have to go through, and it's a very it's a very complex process. So we helped build the methodology that got them comfortable with how they would do that. And then the third thing is ongoing ecosystem development. So we work together with VACT and our clients across different markets, trying to determine the best way for them to work together to access the platform and what value it can deliver.
If anyone is interested for this solution, can access somehow this information about this VACT?
Yeah, you can go to the VACT website, which is www.vakt.com, or they can contact us by email and we can connect them to them.
Clearly, there are some very interesting trends you can see in the energy industry. I think we could revolve around this topic for a long time, but for today, this is what we could cover. To all of our listeners, thank you for joining us. Randy, Csaba, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was another edition of Meeting Request. Stay with us until next time.